Spiritual Sankofa, a stolen legacy.
I painted this in the style of a nostalgic black and white photo for you. Listen. Sankofa. To go back, to go back, to go back to the wisdom, to our riches, our prisons, the power of the bones. Sankofa. To go back, to tribal living so no one walks this road alone. To find balance and reciprocity so the winds don't sing the blues and moan. And in our very ancient essence we grow strong. Sankofa. To go back from the babies to the elders grown. Individualists in our lineage, we need to correct this wrong. Sankofa. To go back to universal love, to reflect the sweet memories of our departed beloved. Sankofa. To go back to correct the earth and change for the fate of what's above. Sankofa. To go back to be a snake charm as smart but as harmless as a dove. Sankofa. Go back to the water and remember the slaughter of those we know not by name, to hear their voices in the rhythms of the waves, and to give thanks to Oru Oshupa for rotating our days. Sankofa. To go back to our ancestors and recover Ijinle ways. Sankofa. To go back to remember our triumphs, our struggles, and how well they switched hats so that we might find our place to keep the legacies intact. Sankofa. To go back to where spiritual intelligence was regarded as fact. Sankofa. To go back to restore the ancient values and rescue the things the untruths love to say we lack. Sankofa. To go back.
Spiritual Sankofa, a stolen legacy.
To go back, to remember what we forgot. Remember what we forgot so that we can reclaim what's ours. Welcome to Spiritual Sankofa, a stolen legacy, presented by the Wellness Department of the Black Gold Nation. The Black Gold Nation's vision is to create physically safe geographic spaces for Black people where we better determine our future by controlling our environment 100%. To do this, the Black Gold Nation's mission is to own and or control municipalities by establishing strong communities and institutional power that serve to empower, free, and advance the mind, body, and spirit of Black people. The Wellness Department of the Black Gold Nation supports this vision and mission using the biopsychosocial process, which encompasses the wholeness of its members, the mental, physical, spirit, the mind, body, and soul. It is our intent that this show, Spiritual Sankofa, a stolen legacy, is beginning of that process. Sankofa, which literally means to go back and get it. Go back and get it. Go back so that we can reclaim our legacy. Go back to remember our connection to African spirituality. At this time, I want to briefly introduce my collaborative sisters, Fundi Akita. Hello. And Queen Mother Leona.
Welcome.
Both of these ladies will reveal more of themselves as we go on into the show. During this, our introductory episode, as well as future episodes, we ask that any questions you have be placed in the chat or comments section, and we will answer them as time permits during the Q&A. Tonight's introductory episode will focus on how our legacy was stolen, the Black Gold Nation's perspective on spirituality, and the empirical question, why now? As we collaborate on future episodes of Spiritual Sankofa, we will focus on the vast, in-depth explorations of an array of topics concerning our people, as well as have featured guests who will assist us on this journey to reclaiming our stolen legacy. But right now, we invite you to sit back, relax, and journey with us as we begin this episode by welcoming Queen Mother Leona regarding how our legacy was stolen. Queen Mother.
Thank you so much. And it's so wonderful to be here in order to have this opportunity to speak of things that's so dearly to each one of us. Welcome, welcome everybody. The greatest theft that was ever committed was that of African history, culture, and spirituality. And what better way to make a people feel inferior than to enslave them, take away their culture, their education, their history, and even more important, to take away their spirituality. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about spirituality, first let's hit it a little bit of what I call spirituality, what spirituality is to me. I see it as the God, the divine. However you understand that God, or God's presence that connects us to each other, our source inspiration. And a deep, profound bond with each other is what I see spirituality. It inspires me. You give me a deep-seated sense of connection to you, to others, to the universe, to the cosmic energy. But I'm not going to get into spirituality. I just wanted to tip on it because I'm talking about what was stolen. We'll later talk about spirituality. And looking back thousands of years into Kemet meaning the land of Black people, or also known as the Black Crossroads. It had a number of names, or what is now called ancient Egypt. Well, that was Kemet. We find there was the oldest temples there in Kemet. There, those oldest temples were the oldest languages, which came from Kemet. And the oldest religious texts came from Kemet. Oldest remains of Black women were found. That wasn't in Kemet. However, you think about it. Now, when millions of people believe in something that is false, in the eyes of the innocent, it appears to be true. You would not need a degree or anything of that kind to understand the truth or its origins when given dates and visual proof, which you've seen in the temples. The truth then has a means of surfacing, like, for instance, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, even Chinese traditional religions, Buddhism, and etc., were not the creators of a religion. All religions came from Kemet. The temples and the dates tell it all. Okay, there would be no religion without Kemet. Okay, following the great floods of ancient Egypt, when the Kemetic temples were rediscovered and writings and the pictures filled all on the walls of our history, the ancestors left lots of visuals. And it can be seen where many religions derive their concepts from Judaism to Christianity. Surfacing on those walls, you even see a babe in a manger with a mother and a father, Greek religious symbols, and more. And our ancestors were doing surgeries they were thousands of years ago. Symbols of our medical instruments, exact replicas of many medical instruments being used today. These instruments filled the temple walls around Imhotep. He was the first doctor of medicine, the first doctor of astrology, the first genius. And the prescription symbol, that symbol is still embedded in in everything, all of our medicine. And it's embedded in the eye of Haru in those temples. You see that prescription symbol. So we go back thousands of years. We talk about many of the symbols we see today, and all those symbols were there thousands of years ago, which is telling us that our history had been hidden from us. Why do we say hidden? Well, it was a great attempt to dispel the great sculptures from appearing Negroid, removing their noses and different figures. They even made notes there that many of the sculptures were Negroid, but they were not Negro. Type of psychological things that they would use to depict who we were. And they would even paint pictures over our pictures. Speaking of the Western civilization. And they was use their pictures, and their pictures that they painted over our faces is now starting to disappear. It's amazing how we come out, no matter what how they try to erase us, we still keep coming right back up again, over and over again. Okay. Now we're looking back at different places. They even found a boat, pieces of a boat. It was thousands of pieces, and they put all the pieces together. And when they put all the pieces together, the boat was 140 feet long. And so they say the boat sank during the New floods. So the name of the boat was the New, I guess because of during those floods. New would then be changed to Noah's Ark. Amazing, the depiction. Okay, during the period of the Greek philosophers, it would have been impossible to write such philosophy when there were constant wars during that time. But they said these were the Greek philosophers. But many of the philosophers of that time show no history of ever studying any type of anywhere, no history of no childhood. So, but however, much of the writings that they speak of, we find on the walls in Kemet, our great philosophers who had that same philosophy. So many of the things that they say were theirs was really ours. We just have to look back and find out who we are. Okay, to aid a bit further into our stolen legacy, let us not forget about the book, the Christian slavery book. And it was talking on the religious instruction of the Negroes in the USA. In the matter of astonishment that there should be any objection at all, this is what was written. For the duty of giving religious instruction to our Negroes and the benefits flowing from, it should be obvious to all. This is what they stated. The benefits will conceive to be incalculably great. And one of them is there will be no greater subordination amongst the Negroes. Let's go on a little bit further. Eventually, enslavers took it upon themselves to force the enslaved Africans to become Christians. One can be so blind as not to see the great mercies God has bestowed upon unlearned Negroes through slavery, bringing them into the power of Christian lords who have given them the light of the gospel that was written in 1612 by a Spanish friar. Stolen is when someone borrows heavenly from a source and then seeks to destroy that source and misrepresent where that source came from. That was from our priest, Obasari. I see as our stolen history, our stolen legacy. Okay, and like scavengers, the Western world came into Kemet after the floods, taking many artifacts, which can be noted in the museums all around the world. They took concepts of philosophy and various things as mentioned, but they were unable to wipe out our history. It was real difficult to wipe out our history because we keep coming back, like the pictures that they tried to erase. We keep coming back, like each time any one of our individuals our people in history or right now, they rise to whatever occasion that we're put in, whatever situation we put up against has been our history. And we continue to do it on and on. But the Black Gold Nation is seeking to reclaim that legacy and build a community that our ancestors struggled to achieve, to bring back Ma'at, truth, justice, and righteousness. And we'll go into a bit more on spirituality with next our sister, Fundi Akita.
So if you missed the beginning of the show, you're listening to and watching the inauguration episode of Spiritual Sankofa, A Stolen Legacy. Within this podcast, we seek to have a conversation on our spiritual viewpoints and attitudes as we are called to act in the world. The Spiritual Sankofa, A Stolen Legacy podcast is the spiritual component of the How to Build a Black Nation with Power podcast, because the Black Gold Nation understands that to have the kind of nation we need, we must return to fetch what has been lost and reclaim our spiritual history, power, and legacy. We now return you to the podcast.
Hello, my brothers and sisters. Again, welcome to our first podcast, Spiritual Sankofa, A Stolen Legacy. I was given the African name Akita, A-K-I-T-A, which means leader or teacher, by my church, the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church of the Shrines of the Black Madonna. Although I was a young child, I was raised Christian, but we only attended church occasionally. So my true spiritual journey started in the Shrines of the Black Madonna. And as I walked on this spiritual journey, I could continue to develop my spiritual faith. And I am glad to have you, the audience, with me and my other colleagues here as we look at spirituality and how it manifests in our daily lives as we act for God in this world. And there's definitely a need for God-like action in this world today. So instead of me telling you more about who I am, I would like for you to get to know me as I get to know you through this podcast. So I will be introducing myself to you more and more through the history of this program. Again, I'm excited to be here with Sister Fabu and Queen Mother Leona and having this conversation, this dialogue or intercourse And I'm really excited to start hearing our audience viewpoints and stories of your spiritual journey as you become an integral part of our show. So let's go ahead and dive into the discussion on what is spirituality from the Black Gold Nation's perspective. When we are talking about spirituality, its description and what it means, I wanted to be clear that we are not talking about organized religion. So whether you belong to an Islamic community as a Muslim, or you are Christian, or the other various religious communities, Judaism, Buddhism, or even if you're atheist, or if you prescribe to the African traditional religion from which all religions are derived from, we, Black Gold Nation, we are all inclusive. We want all of you to be here and dialogue with us so that we can learn, experience, and grow spiritually. We want you here because the focus is not religion, but spirituality and spiritual growth. Because spirituality is universal, yet it's experienced in many different ways. We are seekers open to experiencing a relationship with ourselves, with our brothers and sisters, and with this higher power which undergirds those relationships. So, what does it mean to be spiritual? How do I use my spiritual powers in this world? Do I need to be spiritual to be a revolutionary? These questions and more we would like to explore in this show. Now, I would like to start with a caveat, because as we use words, as people, we use words. We use terms and labels to give us some understanding. So the caveat is, as the commentators of this show, we may use a specific language, but you, our audience, can substitute it to work to what you understand spirituality as being. So what I'm saying to you is, don't get caught up and hung up on the words more than the meaning or the intent of the words. You see, our goal is not to really define spirituality, but to describe the undescribable by having a conversation on the purpose of being a spiritual being. We do understand it is the experience of the spirit that is important, and that the experience of spirituality changes constantly. I know it does for me. At times I think I have a handle on my spiritual self, and then something new come along and I have to rethink it. Or something that I thought that I knew actually changed. And so my thought process has changed. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You see, spirituality, it is constant and it is ever changing. So you can see how our show, Spiritual Sankofa, A Stolen Legacy, is going to be exciting, thought-provoking, and ever-changing tune. It's going to be a great show. Let's look at a few basic things about spirituality, and that is on a more broader focus. See, spirituality is a connection to cosmic energy and creative intelligence, which empower us to act and bestows upon us a connectedness to one another, giving us a sense of purpose in the universe through the divine energy field in which we live, move, and have our being. Now that says a lot. So I'm going to try to break it down. So just kind of stay with me and take a little notes. When we talk about cosmic, what we're talking about is the meaning is that it's universal, that it's vast, it's enormous. And hopefully we can all agree spirituality holds a vastness and that energy is universal. The word energy. We all come from energy. And as energy beings, we have a connection to that larger cosmic energy that we just said was vast and universal. We have a connection, and whether we believe that energy made us, guide us, hears us. We all understand we are energy beings connected to a cosmic energy. I think we can also agree that there is a creative intelligence to cosmic energy. It's not just random. The energy field is intelligent and creative. With spirituality, there is a purpose, order, and interdependency. Let's look at the creation of life that seems to be so basic to us at times. See, we can use our bodies to see the creativeness and the intelligence in which we live, move, and have our being. It's the energy of a woman and a man that creates life. It is the creative intelligence of that energy when combined that produces the heart in all of its intricacies so that it beats, and the lungs that breathe in life. This is the human embryonic development process called cell division. In biological terms, human development entails the growth that comes from one cell zygote, which basically is just a fertilized egg cell, just to kind of keep it basic. And in this fetal development, all of a sudden, the presence of all the major body organs, the making of the limbs, the body, the hair, the eyes. Just think of all the creative intelligence taking place. The gene structure that makes you say, hey, this little one looks like me. Just think of all the creative intelligence in just the one act of spiritual energy that gives us a soul and a human form. Man, it's so amazing. It's almost crazy to me and scary, but it's definitely all-inspiring. And sometimes I think we forget that because people say, oh, you had a baby. No, you didn't just have a baby. The universe, cosmic energy, and creative intelligence created a baby using you and your significant other as the vehicle for that creation. I want to point out about this British philosopher, Anthony Flew. He was a strong advocate of atheism, but he wrote a book that he now believes there is a God. And he said, I now believe there is a God. I now think it, and he's talking about the evidence, does point to a creative intelligence, almost entirely because of the DNA investigations that he did. He says, what I think the DNA material has done is that it has shown by the almost unbelievable complexity of the arrangements which are needed to produce life, that intelligence must have been involved in getting these extraordinary, diverse elements to work together. This is an atheist who now, once he started studying science, realized that there had to be a God. I said spirituality is a connection to cosmic energy and creative intelligence. And I also stated that it empowers us to act and bestows upon us a connectedness to one another. Let us explore that a little further. You see, there is a purpose for us to be spiritual. Spirituality is not in a vacuum all by itself for you to hold on to. Oh, I'm spiritual. So what? If you're not doing anything with the power spirituality gave you, so what that you're spiritual? So you have to understand there is a purpose for us to be spiritual, for us to be aware of our spirituality, and that purpose is what actually gives us meaning. You see, we pray, meditate, beat drums, listen to music, do rituals to tap into that cosmic energy and creative intelligence we talked about earlier. And we ask for strength. Sometimes we ask for direction. We want to know why we are here. We look for answers to problems we have. And we wonder, How are we to act in this world? You see, I read a while back that faith is a connection between our spiritual nature and the social realities of our human existence that propels us to action. I'm going to repeat that. Faith is the connection between our spiritual nature and the social realities of our human existence that propels us to action. What does that mean? It means our spiritual nature and what's going on in the world is connected. And because of this connection, this relationship, faith in our spiritual being causes us to act. We can act on the side of good, and we can fight against evil. As members of the Black Gold Nation, we understand that we are Black, we are oppressed, and we seek to end our oppression. Black Gold Nation takes the seeker on an intentional, systematic, transforming spiritual journey to obtain, to accept, and embrace the knowledge and understanding that we are connected to a higher source of energy, and that energy is everywhere, in everything, and can be communicated and interacted with. And this connection gives us the power to act on behalf of the world, to act on behalf of the world. As we develop our spiritual selves, we begin to strengthen our connection to one another. We begin to understand the need for another brother or sister in our lives. We begin to develop a greater sense of community. And we begin to understand that through that connection, I have an obligation. You see, I have an obligation, a divine obligation, to treat my brothers and sisters with love, respect, and honesty. A divine obligation. So if I am spiritual, then my behavior would reflect that spiritual growth and energy. Would you not think so? I want you to stay with me. Now, with this spiritual energy in me, you see, I can no longer fight against my brothers and sisters. I am now compelled to fight for my brothers and sisters. If we are Black, oppressed, and seek to end that oppression, we must act. We must do the things that the divine energy field in which we live, move, and have our being have empowered us to do. Now, this requires us changing the way we think a little bit. You know, as we grow spiritually, you start understanding, I must change. You must change. We must change. Which means I have to look at my behavior and see how I have been individualistic. I, me, my. And then I had to look at accepting a more communal way of being. Ubuntu, I am because we are. I must see my people suffering and not turn away and dismiss them. No, I have to act for them. I must fight to end their oppression. Spirituality compels me to do so. It compels me to act. It gives me the creative intelligence to understand our condition, the creative intelligence to do what is needed to work towards ending our oppression. It empowers me to stand against evil and fight the greater good for all of us. Tamani, if you could bring it up again, I'm gonna repeat it.
What?
Spirituality is a connection to cosmic energy and creative intelligence which empowers us to act and bestows upon us a connectedness to one another, giving us a sense of purpose in the universe through the divine energy field in which we live, move, and have our being. I wanted to have it up because it helps if we read it also, as an audience, because as I say it, it's kind of, you could catch the words, but I want you to read it and see what it means to you. I said earlier that with spirituality, there's a purpose, there's an order, and there's an interdependency. Now I want you to listen. See, the purpose of spirituality is to empower us. The order of spirituality is that there is a balance to life that is good. And the interdependency is my connection to my brothers and sisters, to my community, to my environment, to the world. I am dependent on all of those, and they are dependent on me. So when I talk about spirituality having a purpose, order, and interdependency, I am reminded of another quote of Antony Flew, the staunch atheist, who decided that there was a God, he said, science spotlights 3 dimensions of nature that points to God. The first is the fact that nature obeys laws. The second is the dimension of life, of intelligently organized and purpose-driven beings who rose from matter. And then the third is the very existence of nature. If you look at those 3 things, then you know that there is creative intelligence in cosmic energy. Thank you for the slide. I have a question for us to ponder, and that question is, what is the relationship between religion and spirituality? One important point to make is that it is possible to be spiritual without being religious. But being religious requires being spiritual. Now, I'm not going to expound on this in the show right here today, but I want us to think about it. So I'm going to repeat it again. And I would like for us to think about it so that we will be discussing this in future shows. And the question was, what is the relationship between religion and spirituality? It is possible to be spiritual without being religious, but being religious requires being spiritual. All right, I'm going to move on because I like to sum up a few things. And just so you would know, in later shows, we're going to talk about rituals, processes, and experiences that lead us towards our spiritual being. So stay tuned for those discussions. So as I sum things up, I wanted to point out a few more aspects of spirituality. Spirituality is an intrinsic belief that there is more to life than what meets the senses, more to the universe than just purposeless mechanics of just living, more to consciousness than electric impulses in the brain, and more to our existence than the physical body and its needs. Spirituality is about seeking a meaningful connection with the vast universal cosmic energy and creative intelligence, which can result in expanding the mind beyond limitations, beyond our regular day-to-day thoughts, and beyond our limited viewpoints. You see, spirituality is empowering, life-affirming, and active. A spiritual experience is sacred and transcendent and interconnected. And remember, Black Gold Nation teaches nothing is more sacred than the empowerment and freedom of African people. Now, that about all I have to say right now today, And I hope you all have questions that we can discuss later during the Q&A. But we have more show coming up, and we're very excited to have Sister Fabu, who will be discussing why now. Why today we must look at our spiritual selves critically. Why now must we look at our real purpose in this world? Why now we need to turn toward a more spiritual lifestyle? I'd like to hear about that. So let's bring to stage one of our one and only Sister Fabu. Hello, Sister Fabu.
Hi, my God. What can I say? We have really been fed tonight. I've just gotten all excited. I just don't, all I can say is, wow, we've kind of looked at how the beginning, we just touched the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg of how our legacy was stolen and our perspective on spirituality, BGN's perspective. And we want to now look at that empirical question, why now? Well, I am Sister Fabu. I am the keeper of the culture for the Black Gold Nation. I am a small feminine piece of that cosmic energy and creative intelligence of the universe, which I call God. Therefore, I am peace, I am love, I am hope, I am emotional, and a whole lot of other things you cannot see. My mission is to represent and to reveal the existence of a higher power to those that I meet and those who encounter me, so that they can reach their higher self. Now, while on this mission, I've made more mistakes than not. And I'm sure I will continue to make a lot more. But hey, I'm up for the ride. That's who I am. That's the I in me that you cannot see. But as we go along, you will learn more about me and the tools that I use to intentionally, on purpose, carry out my mission as you tune in to future shows and episodes of Spiritual Sankofa, A Stolen Legacy. But for now, let's just talk about the empirical question, why now? Why a show on Spiritual Sankofa? And what does that really mean? Well, here in the Black Gold Nation, our concept of Spiritual Sankofa is a return to remember what we forgot. A return to remember what we forgot about spirit. A return to remember what we forgot about us as energy beings and how our connection to the unified energy field gives us power to act on our own behalf. The time is now, because in this time, we may or may not know that the world is changing. Believe it or not, we may not be aware of it, but the time is now. The COVID pandemic, the worldwide outrage over the loss of Black lives, those things have been the catalyst that has a lot of us searching for that peace, and I do mean P-I-E-C-E, and peace, P-E-A-C-E, that helps us make sense of our experiences and the world in which we live. Why, Dr. Robert Small says that religious constructs has it where we can't see the God in us, let alone see ourselves as God. That realization makes now a healthy time and a dangerous time in equal measure. Why? Because life is a vibrational energy cycle. And as such, the time is now for us to learn the science of the relationship between cosmology, ecology, and the human energy being. How do we understand these relationships? How do we connect for alignment? The time is now for us to understand that we are one. We all need and we all want the same thing. What's happening is we are unaware that we are saying the same things, doing the same things, and that that thing has been interpreted in different ways by different cultures. The time is now, because more than ever, melanated people are beginning to question religion and are pushing back against the blatant, oppressive, and discriminatory ideas espoused in religion. According to a Pew Research Center survey, that's 86% of all Black adults, African American, melanated people, whatever we're calling ourselves these days, 86% of us identify as Christian. Think about that, 86% in the US. The time is now, because there are generations of young folk, our future, who are turning to new practices in an effort to connect with a higher power, to understand their higher power. They are rejecting a Western belief system that focuses the light on individualism and independence in search of the African system that has as its base Ubuntu, I am because we are. The time is now, because that same Pew Research says that the millennials, those 23 to 38, are now more likely to say that they have no religion at all, because they have seen or have experienced a lot of negatives from people who are motivated by religion. For example, you may recall this song by this young brother, Toby Nwigwe. I'm assuming that Toby is Christian, because in his lyric, he says, try Jesus, not me, because I lay hands. And as I listened to him, I thought more and more about what he said. And I thought, well, that turn the other cheek thing that we talk about, the way it's taught in religion, that needs a whole lot more explanation. Why now? Why a journey towards spiritual Sankofa? As I said earlier, this is a healthy time and a dangerous time in equal measure. A healthy time because the energy of the pandemic forced us to shut down, isolate, determine what is important, and make a decision or not on how we're going to thrive in this new environment. A dangerous time because the recent outrage over the loss of Black lives has exposed, as one of my colleagues so eloquently says, the philosophy, system, and game of white supremacy racism. Now, this exposure addresses now, more than ever, the urgency that we as a people must have, to elevate our conscious awareness of the relationship between cosmology, ecology, and the human energy being. We must elevate our awareness as how we use it to build a Black nation with power. These times are occurring in equal measure, simultaneously, and we must prepare to survive and thrive in a war we did not start. In conclusion, stay with me as I get real personal about why now. You see, I was born, reared, and baptized head first in the Christian religion. So I am specifically talking to my family and those I call family, because we're a part of that 86% who identify as Christian. When I look back over the history of my people coming out of being enslaved, living through the KKK, Jim Crow, the Black Codes, I realized that we needed something to hold on to. No one was on the shores of America to give us grief counseling or trauma-informed care. What we had was a bastardized form of African spirituality. Now that's another show. Stay with us, come back, watch for it. Because of the bastardization of African spirituality, it is now time for us to remember that our ingenious, our clever, our brilliant ancestors maintained certain African spiritual customs and traditions. Our ancestors hid these customs and traditions inside Christianity and changed a religion meant to oppress them into a religion that worked for them and their survival, both physically and spiritually. You know, growing up, my experience, and I mean growing up in Christianity, my experiences have caused me to understand that catching the Holy Ghost is equivalent to going into a trance at a Brazilian candomblé. So when I came to understand that, I came to understand that Christianity was really my springboard into seeking the spirit within. You see, once I learned the truth of who Jesus was and what he came to do, I understood clearer what he meant when he said, such that I can do, you can do even more. Now, I learned that, and I didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. I really began to understand that Christianity and Jesus has been used to justify white supremacy, racism. Through further research and study, I came to see Jesus in another light. I came to see Jesus as my revolutionary example who fought against Roman oppression. The Marcus Garvey is of his time. And guess what? I've been riding with the brother ever since. I also came to understand that Jesus gotta be tired, y'all. He gotta be tired of 86% of us calling on him to do the things that we can do for ourselves once we know how to unlock, unleash, and activate the spiritual power available to us to fight on behalf of good. I now clearly understand that Jesus has done his part. Jesus has done his part. His blood has been shed. It is now time for us to elevate to the next level in this matrix. Now, don't get alarmed. I'm still talking to that 86% of Christians out there, my family and those I call family. The world is changing, y'all, and we got to be open to receiving and processing new information. Now, I know that's not easy on any level. Being open to processing new information will help us to adapt to these changing times, because the time is now to do the work that we were sent here to do. Y'all still with me? I know I went rogue on Christianity, but I can do that. As a new born-again Christian disciple who has elevated to a full-blown seeker and has joined the Black Gold Nation's journey to exploring African spirituality, it is my hope that you too will join us on this journey. Spiritual Sankofa, go back, be still, and remember who you are. You are spirit embodied. Spirit embodied. I leave you with this. Why now? Why not now? Why you? Why not you? You see, the Black Gold Nation teaches nothing is more sacred. Nothing, no thing is more sacred than the liberation, empowerment, and freedom of our people. Thank you for listening. I guess it's now. We can take a deep breath. Now for our question and answers, Brother Tamani, are there any questions?
No, ma'am, we don't have any questions online from our Facebook pages. So we just open it up to those that are joining us via Zoom. So now is the time for anyone to ask a question of the three sisters as it relates to the show that we are doing. So does anyone have a question or comment for Fundi Akita, Fundi Fabu, or Queen Mother Leona? Now is the time to ask your question and or give your comment. Any questions or comments?
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you. So
Yeah, we'd love to hear just what you even thought of the show. Anybody?
Any questions or comments going once? Questions or comments going twice? And I must say to the three of you, this is normal. people tune in when they don't want to ask.
Oh, they're kind of like they do on Facebook, huh? We just scroll. We don't say nothing. We don't make
For sure,
no
right.
comment.
That's right. That's right. That is it.
Just
All
scroll.
right.
I know that's why.
that's fine, because it was a lot of information. So they have to take it in. Sometimes you have to take it in, then you get questions. So we'll be back, on the third Wednesday of each month. So by then you'll have you'll have some questions formulated for us, we hope. Because we want you to interact with us. We want you to ask those questions. We want you to be involved. We want to hear your stories on your spiritual journey.
And we'll have more single topics. We won't have so many varied topics.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Amen. All right. Well, we're going to roll into the announcements and then we'll give you sisters a final comment and then we will close it out.
Black Gold Nation's announcements include our podcast, which are How to Build a Black Nation with Power every Wednesdays, except each third Wednesday of the month is this show, Spiritual Sankofa, A Stolen Legacy. The Revolutionary Code every Thursday of the month, and Cinematic Connections for Revolutionary Change, which airs every other Saturday morning. Be sure to visit us at blackgoldnation.com and choose the BG Media tab for listings of all our podcasts. Our events are the Black Gold National Leadership Election, June the 24th through the 26th, and our first Black Gold National Leadership Election Inauguration being held October the 27th through the 30th in Houston, Texas. More details to come. Once again, visit blackgoldnation.com and choose the election tab for more information on the election or joining our leadership team.
All right. So before I close this thing out and tie everything together, I want to give you sisters an opportunity to say your last words. So on my screen, it is Fundi Akita and Fundi Fabu, then Queen Mother. So Fundi Akita, any closing comments and or remarks about our inauguration show, Spiritual Sankofa?
Well, I didn't really have anything prepared, but I do really want to impress upon our listeners that this is a show dealing with spirituality in all its intricacies. And there's different aspects and different ways that people worship and think of spirituality. And so we want to hear from you. We want you involved. We want you to help us learn from you as you learn from us. And so we look forward to our future shows. And we thank you for tuning in to our inaugural show. And we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. Amen. Fundi Fabu?
Okay, I'm like from the kid. I didn't have anything really prepared, but I'm really excited about the prospects of the show. I'm like from Nikita. I invite you all to tell somebody else about the show because we will be discussing spirituality, what it means, and the different types and the different cultures that talk about spirituality. We really want to engage in earnest, open conversation about what this spirit is because of the fact that if you get still and remember who you are. You will remember that you are spirit and body. The body is just the vehicle. Cultures and the way that we say things and the way that we do things is all about the culture that you're a part of. But there's only one entity, then that entity is cosmic energy and creative intelligence that defines us all. And we all live, move, and have our being in it. So let's not let the words, and let's not let the traditions, let's not let it from empowering ourselves to build a kingdom, a Black nation with power here on earth. We don't have to go nowhere to have it. Okay, he said closing remarks, not a sermon, Father.
Well,
Okay, so I'm going to end that with saying, be still and remember who you are. You are spirit in body. You were given the body so that you can do something. And that's what starts your spiritual journey. Thank you for being with us. And I look forward to more of this. As you can tell, I get excited. I'm through.
All right, amen. All right, Queen Mother.
I have to say that, you know, it's wonderful to know who you are. And we don't know who we are because who we are was stolen from us. It was taken away. But even though it was taken away, we shine through no matter what the situation. We are the most oppressed people there is. However, through all that we've gone through the castles, the waters, the slavery, the slave codes, you name it, we always come out on top. Just finding out who we are. I know when I look deep into myself and I see me and I see the beauty in me, when I see others who look like me, I see that beauty immediately. It's something that comes through each of us. Because we lost who we are, we don't see the beauty in who we are. We thought we were trying to be like something else in order for us to be big, to be better. But then to find out that we were going in the wrong direction, but how do we know if we haven't been told? It's almost like a story I was told once about people who lived in a cave and all the people they saw were only shadows. And they came out of that cave after many years and they were told the people walking down the street was reality. And they thought, this is crazy. I know what reality is. I've seen shadows my whole life long. You're sick. We just got to find out who we are. That's all. And then we can rise to what we are. Because we all know that. We do it every day. That's what I have to say. That's what I'm here to help us find out. And we don't know all the answers, but we're hoping that we can get people on this show who can help us with those answers. And we can come together and find out the answers. Because I know I don't have it all. I don't know it all. And I look for your help so that I can go in the right direction as well. We help each other.
All right, that is a perfect segue to my tying this stuff in. All right, so as I said initially, this is a part of a larger podcast. Spiritual Sankofa is a component of the How to Build a Black Nation with Power podcast. And it is a component because we are trying to build a Black nation with power. We cannot build a Black nation with power without spirituality. We cannot build a Black nation with power without understanding that our legacy has been stolen. We cannot build a Black nation with power without spiritual understanding, connectivity, and usage. If we're going to build a Black nation with power, we need at least 3 fundamental things. The first one is a foundation upon which we can build upon. The Black Gold Nation is based on the Shrines of the Black Madonna, started by Reverend Albert B. Clegg Jr., 1953. Eventually, African title and name became Jeramogi Bebe Ajiman. That foundation is upon the ground that we are built, and every movement of Black people that came after, we utilize. We say in the BGM body of knowledge that we reserve the right to use anything that other Black people have put into motion to help move the Black needle forward toward freedom, empowerment, salvation, and power. We cannot do that without a strong foundation, which we have. Secondly, you cannot build a Black nation with power without leadership. You must have Black people who know what they're doing in the areas by which we are being attacked, destroyed, and or by which we are deficient. That is why we are having a national leadership election, to find other Black people, like the three sisters you just heard from, as Queen Mother just said, to join us in building a leadership team that can bring solutions to Black people. No one person, I don't care how bad they are, I don't care how intelligent they might be, no one person has all the answers. It's going to take a team of us to move our people forward, because surprise, surprise, our enemies work as a team. This is a team sport. And one of the reasons we keep losing is because we don't play as a team. So you have to have a strong foundation. You have to have leadership that understands what it's doing, understands that this thing is about power, and leadership that has an undying love and commitment to Black people. And lastly, we absolutely must have a spiritual connection. Now, other people have nations. They don't need to have a spiritual connection because they are not us. We must have a spiritual connection because that is our power. That is how we were able to do things that other people can't figure out. Everything that we've built, all the evidence is right there in Africa and all over the world. But white people will tell you aliens must have done it. ET must have traveled from another planet to Earth and built these things because we white and we can't figure it out. We did that. We did a lot of things that they can't figure out because we were operating at a higher level. And we were operating at a higher level because we had a spiritual understanding and connectivity. So what we're saying in the Black Gold Nation movement, what Queen Mother just got finished saying, is that we got to be a team because no one person has all the answers. As Fundi Akita said, we got to understand how spirituality works so that we can use it. And as Fundi Fabu said, the time is now. Why? Because we're born into a war that we didn't start and we're losing. And we've been losing for a very long time. So we don't want to continue to lose. We don't want our children to become a permanent underclass in the country that was built on the backs of their ancestors. We want to win. And because we Black, we want to win in style. And we won't look good doing it. But we can't make that happen without other Black people like you guys. So if you have expertise in these areas shown on this flyer, or if you know someone who has expertise in these areas shown on this flyer, then go to our website, blackgoldnation.com, and nominate yourself or someone that you know for leadership, because we're fighting for our survival. America is changing. As Fundi Fabu said, America is changing. And the America that comes out of the pandemic will not be the same America that went into it. And she wasn't pro-Black when she went into it. So we got to get hip to what's happening. We got to understand that time is now, and we got to understand that time is not on our side. If, and this is a big if, capital letters, underlined, italicized, highlighted in yellow, if we're going to have a future worth living, we got to build it. No one is going to do it for us. No one is coming to save us. But that is okay because we don't need anybody to do it for us. Everything we need, we already have. We were born with it. And as Queen Mother Leona said repeatedly, we just don't know it because nobody told us. They stole it. They painted over it. Then they just lied about stuff. So if we're gonna win, we got to get back to understanding who and what we are. And we are a lot. I often say that this would be a boring ass planet if Black people weren't on it. Everything we do, we take to another level. Good, bad, or otherwise. We'll take some BS like sagging pants to another level, and the whole world does it. Why? Because we make everything funky. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to find the funky Black people who are serious about empowerment and freedom. Because we need some power and we need to be free. Everything that happens to us because we don't have the power to stop it. And what we're saying in the Black Gold Nation is that we want to understand how to get that power so that we can stop these things from happening, so we can put ourselves and our people in a position to win. So on that note, I want to thank all of you guys for being a part of the inaugural show. Again, we're going to do this the third Wednesday of every month, and we're going to get Blacker and we're going to get stronger and we're going to get bigger and better because it's what we do. Whenever we focus on anything, we take it to another level. So we're going to focus on Spiritual Sankofa and we're going to take it to another level because it's what we do. And we're hoping and praying that you guys join us on the journey because we need you to be with us because no one person can do this thing by themselves. No one organization can do this by itself. If we're going to make it, then we have to make it together. So we're going to close out with our closing credits. I wish all of you guys good luck. Hopefully we'll see you soon at the next show. And as we said in the announcements, we have our the Revolutionary Code tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, and we just go from there. So on that note, thank you guys very much. God bless. And after the credits, we'll be done.
Spiritual Sankofa, a stolen legacy.
Good night.
Good night.
Can you guys,
Night, everyone.
hey,